I want to talk about the mechanism of the mob. We as human beings are tribal animals. We crave belonging. But the easiest way, as it turns out, to bond a group together isn't through love. It's through a shared enemy. And sociologists call this in-group, out-group bias. The philosopher René Girard called it the scapegoat mechanism. So when a society is anxious or poor or angry, it needs a release valve. It needs a victim to reestablish order. So we engage in outcasting. We pick a group of strangers, immigrants, weak, and we blame them for our chaos. We convince ourselves that if we just remove them, order will return. But this is a lie. Violence against the outcast doesn't create order. It creates a precedent for chaos. When you tear down the law to get at the stranger, you unwittingly tear down the very walls that protect you. So there was a speech written 400 years ago by Shakespeare for his play Thomas More that I think perfectly dismantles the psychology of the mob. So More is facing a riot. The citizens of London are attacking refugees, and he doesn't appeal to their pity. He actually appeals to their self-preservation. He asks them a terrifying question. If you teach the world that violence is the only law, what happens when the violence turns on you? So this is pretty much how it goes. He's standing in front of them and they're saying, remove them. He says, grant them removed, and grant that this your noise hath chid down all the majesty of England. Imagine that you see the wretched strangers, their babies at their backs, and their poor luggage plodding to the ports and coasts for transportation, and that you sit as kings in your desires, authority quite silent by your brawl, and you in the ruff of your opinions clothed. What had you got? I tell you, you had taught how insolence and strong hands should prevail, how order should be quelled, and by this pattern not one of you should live an aged man. For other ruffians, as their fancies wrought, with self-same hand, self-same reasons, and self-same right, would shark on you, and men like ravenous fishes would feed on one another. Oh, desperate as you are, wash your foul minds with tears, and those same hands that you, like rebels, lift against the peace, lift up for peace. And your unreverent knees, make them your feet, to kneel, to be forgiven. You put down strangers, kill them, cut their throats, possess their houses, and lead the majesty of law in Liam to slip him like a hound. Say now the king, as he is clement, if the offender mourn, should so much come too short of your great trespass, as but to banish you. Whither would you go? What country, by the nature of your error, should give you harbour? Go you to France or Flanders, to any German province, to Spain or Portugal? Nay, anywhere that not adheres to England. Why? You must needs be strangers. Would you be pleased to find a nation of such barbarous temper that breaking out in hideous violence would not afford you an abode on earth? Whet their detested knives against your throats, spurn you like dogs, and like as if that God owed not, nor made not you, nor that the elements were not all appropriate to your comforts, but chartered unto them? What would you think? To be used thus. This is the stranger's case, and this is your mountainish inhumanity. Well, there you have it. I mean, he's talking about, and he's warning us, men like ravenous fishes would feed on one another. And that's pretty much the philosophical core. More is arguing that empathy is not soft. Empathy is the only thing standing between civilization and a state of brutish nature. The moment you decide that some people are outside the protection of the law, you have destroyed the concept of law itself. You think you are the in-group, you think you are kings in your desires, but life is long, fortunes change, kings become beggars, citizens become refugees. And if you have built a world that spurns the stranger like dogs, then when you become the stranger, there will be no one left to let you in. So when we see the scapegoating in our own time, the outcasting, the blame, the mountainish inhumanity, we must remember we do not protect the stranger just for their sake. We protect them because in a world of ravenous fishes, the law is the only net that keeps us from being eaten. Thanks for watching.